So before I'll go ahead and introduce Lindsey. Everybody on here knows Lindsey, but for those that are joining us after the fact, and then I'm going to show a short video clip because I think Lindsey wants to talk to you guys and get maybe your reaction to that, and then we'll dive in. And again, I thank each one of you for being here. Gosh, introducing Lindsey Hein. I mean, Lindsey is. I follow her on social media. I consider her a super mom. I consider her very credentialed for this panel. She's a super mom with 4 boys. It wears me out sometimes following what's going on with those 4 boys. As someone who had 2 daughters, at least we could play man to man, and we never had to go to the zone defense. She's a speaker, well-known speaker. She has several podcasts she does. One, I'll have another podcast with Lindsey Hein, and the second one, which is a little bit newer, around parenting. Why is everyone yelling? And a coach, and then also quite the runner in her own right. So Lindsey, thanks for agreeing to host the panel tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's 2 of my favorite things, being
Excellent.
a mother and runner.
Well, I appreciate that. And you're a longtime friend of Indy Runners, so we appreciate you helping us out as well. But I'm going to share here and hopefully be able to show this video successfully. I've practiced today.
When they mentioned the video, I was like, somebody else do it though.
And
I will mess it up.
And in fact, I'm wondering, okay, where did it go? Video. I'm messing it up right now myself. So talk amongst yourselves while I find the video. Oh, here it is.
I was going to say, I see we have someone joining us from an iPhone.
Oh, excellent.
Woohoo.
Oh, there we go.
Let me start it over here.
Can you be an athlete? You, pregnant. You, a mother. That depends. What is an athlete? Someone who moves? Sounds like you. Someone who gets it done, no matter what. You do that. Someone who listens to her body. Also you. Someone who defies gravity. You. Someone who deals with the pain, hits her limit, and pushes past it. Pushing, pushing, pushing. Someone who earns every single win. You. So, can you be an athlete? If you aren't, no one is.
Lindsey, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to be here and honored to talk with you ladies about motherhood and running. And, we talked about that video. That's a Nike ad that just came out. And I don't know how you all felt when you first watched it, but I watched it and thought, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. And I saw a lot of people that weren't runners, because it wasn't just running, right? It was athletics in general, sharing it on their social media. And I was immediately waiting for the lashback to come because I wondered, what are people going to say? Because Nike's kind of been ridiculed for this, how they handle motherhood and their athletes and things like that. So anyway, all of that aside, I'm curious, was there any moments in that ad? And I guess I'll start with you, Chris, where like that really resonated with you as a mother?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it kind of had a lot of different emotion, but I think the part where it says listen to your body was probably the part that most resonated with me. And I think that's really important, probably something we'll talk about more in the panel, because that's what I found. I think even I ran while I was pregnant. I ran right up until the day I delivered. I ran the morning that I was at the hospital. And I think a lot of people say like, oh my gosh, that's not safe, or that's not healthy, or that's not okay. And I think, I think everyone's journey is different. And there were days I ran pregnant that I felt like I could have run forever. And there were days I ran a mile and I stopped. And so that was the part to me, is I think just listening and kind of accepting that some days are your day and some days aren't. I thought that part was really relevant, that being an athlete doesn't mean going out and smashing, world records or running for a PR every time. It can be a lot of different things.
Yeah, I love that, how they say, like, do you move your body? You're an athlete. And I wrote that down too, the listen to your body part, because that is so important. The other thing I wrote down though was the limit pushes past your limit. And I was like, I don't know that we need to be pushing past our limits if we're pregnant. But that, I think maybe they were talking more so about like, once you've had your baby and you're back at it. What did you think, Kate?
Yeah, I think to build on what you just shared, Lindsey, the pushing past limits, I think it is something where, having been an athlete and a runner for most of my life, I think the getting comfortable being uncomfortable and kind of being in that unknown phase because parenthood just pushes you past the limits in about 500 ways per hour at a minimum, it seems. And so I think that resonated with me, just in terms of limits, not necessarily as an athlete, but that training and the mentality that you can bring to training, I think has been really helpful as I've entered the parenthood realm. So that was something that I thought about in the video.
Yeah, I feel the same. I felt the same way after my first baby and my second and my third and my fourth. Like anytime I would get back into like a race setting, I would think about all the stress that builds on my shoulders. Not to say all of parenthood is stressful, but I think about those really hard moments where I've been like laying on the floor, crying with people on top of me. And I'm like, you can work a little bit harder right now. And actually you're going to feel a lot better when you get back in the door if you do, right? How about you, Ashley? What did you feel when you watched it? And did anything stick out?
Yeah, so I got a lot of the same grief that the other ladies mentioned while they're pregnant. I felt with my first, my doctor joked that like she would print a shirt for me that said like, my OB okayed this, and I would just like run in it so people would stop giving me like dirty looks. So initially I was just like, oh, look, maybe other people will see this and look, they're pregnant and like doing things besides sitting on the couch and eating. There's so much more to pregnancy than just like getting big and growing a child. And I don't know, it made me remember why I did it for both of them, and the benefits and how much easier it made labor for me and the process all around that, just staying active the whole time.
Yeah. After my fourth baby, I couldn't be as active, and I maybe could have been, but I just didn't feel that desire. Mm-hmm. And like you ladies, I ran through the end of my pregnancy with my first three. And I got to a point where I was just like, why am I doing this? This isn't comfortable. I'm not enjoying it. So I think it was maybe around 30 weeks, I started walking, and that's what I did for the remainder of my pregnancy. So I think that that's important too. Like what you were saying, just to be active like that, walking a mile, running a mile, didn't matter. I was going to feel better if I did something. I'm curious, right?
Well, I'm laughing because Kate and I work out quite a bit together, and we both worked out while we were pregnant, and our theme was do something.
Do something.
And there were times where we'd have a workout in mind and we say, you know what, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do something. So that was sort of one of our mantras throughout as well.
Is that like a popular hashtag? I feel like it should be.
It's going to start trending now.
Make it something. Yes.
Coin that. Chris Wright, coin that. I'm curious if you ladies had any unexpected issues postpartum, anything that popped up that you weren't expecting. I think with the first baby especially, at least for me, and I think a lot of people feel it like, oh, I want to get back at it. I want to bounce back out there. I want to get back out there and do my thing. But did anything pop up that you surprised you?
I can go ahead. Sorry, Jim. But there's things that happened that like I had no idea would even happen. And even my husband, who's a surgeon, was like, we had to FaceTime my OB because we didn't know what was happening. So I with my first, I had a bladder prolapse, which means that your uterine walls and your pelvic floor are not strong enough. So everything is kind of shifting down and gravity is not your friend. So my babies came quickly, they came easily, but I guess it was a little too easily because everything else was wanting to leave too. So I had to work through a lot of that. And that causes incontinence and stuff like that. And then with my second, I had a cervical prolapse, which is the thing that my husband did not know. It was scary times. COVID was just ramping up. It was last March. So we couldn't go to the doctor. He had her phone number, so we FaceTimed her. So my parts on the phone, it was a lot. I'm bawling in the bathtub. Yeah. And then I was reading all these things on the internet about how I would never be able to run again, and running would never be the same. And you just have to figure something else out, and you need to do all this PT and all this stuff. And it was really scary. I cried for a long time, and I had postpartum depression as well. So yeah, crazy stuff for me. And I'm good now. So they're wrong. Don't trust the internet.
What kind of PT did you do to remedy that?
To be honest, I just was slow to come back and listen to my body. They weren't offering any PT at the time because of COVID. So that also was really upsetting to me. Like, no one cares about my well-being. This is my mental health, like, as well. So I was just like, and we were moving to Kentucky at the same time. So finally, the day they did call us, it was literally the week we were moving. And they're like, do you want to schedule some PT now? My son's like 12 weeks old. And I'm like, no, I'm moving. So I didn't do anything and just took it slow and focused on ab and core exercises. And it's still not perfect, but it doesn't bother me. It's worth the uncomfortableness to actually get out and run. So.
So postpartum depression, new baby, COVID, you moved, like that's all of those things separate from one another are a lot.
Yeah. What
were things that you did? Who did you talk to, get from there to where you are now a year later?
Shout out to my best friend in Whitestown, Melissa Worth. We run, so my husband has to be in early. So we would get up at 4:45 in the morning and run until 5:30 or 6 because he'd have to leave for work then. So she was my best running bud. And then I got sidelined having a baby. And even though like they were being very cautious with COVID and all of that, I was in such dire straits. She would come over, hold my baby who would be screaming the entire time that I was running, and she'd just let me go run. So she was like kind of my saving grace and the person I would call and talk to and cry when I have to pace around the neighborhood for miles because my baby wouldn't stop screaming. But yeah, so that was really nice. And then also just being honest with my OB and reaching out and saying, I'm not feeling right. With my first baby, I was really happy and cried all the time because I was so happy. I'm crying all the time now, and I'm doubting that I even like this baby. This doesn't feel right. So my OB's like, yeah, I think some things are going on. So once we got some medication and some help, they connected me with some mom groups and stuff like that. It was great. And also lactation consultants are amazing too. If you're having any kind of breastfeeding issues, which we were also struggling with the colic, having her come in, there's this, I think it's Indy lactation group. She's the sweetest woman. She was making in-home visits during COVID and was like the only one doing it. And she came in and just like held my baby for an hour while I like bawled. It was anxious, and she was amazing. So
it's so hard. I always say after my first baby, that was my hardest like transition. Like it just, you don't know what to do when you're crying all the time. And I think it's so powerful that you're speaking out loud to people that you went to your doctor and you got medication, because people are scared to do that. They think, oh, maybe it'll go away. Maybe this will pass. And it almost makes me tear up right now thinking that you went and did that. And because you did that, you ended up feeling okay.
Yeah.
Did your
Things
friend
turned right around. I didn't hear the phantom baby cries, and like I couldn't sleep because I would just hear him crying all night, and he wasn't, or he was, either or. But yeah, I couldn't snap out of it. And the medicine, I was leery, but it really did help. So.
Who is this super friend? I never had a friend do that. Like just come over and hold my baby like that.
She really is the best.
Does she have kids of her own?
Yeah, her daughter is the same age as my daughter. And they actually kept my daughter when we had my son because of COVID. We were freaking out. Like, she can't come visit.
Yeah.
Like, our families were all of a sudden not available. We're like, what do we do with our daughter? We have a baby. So she stayed the night at their house, and yeah, they're blessing to us.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Kate, tell us a bit about your journey back from postpartum into where you are now, and how, because your baby's only 10 months old. So how's that going?
It's going really well. I think so. I stopped running in the third trimester because of some pelvic floor pain, which I think, to build on what Ashley was just sharing about how important your village is, and also how important just knowing about what things are possible is. Other mom friends who were runners had shared with me, hey, be careful if you're feeling these things, make sure you're raising this to your OB early on, but then also watch out for it on the postpartum side. So I had been running throughout, but ultimately after actually Chris and I went on a very easy 4-mile run, and then I couldn't get out of bed the next morning because it hurt too bad. I was like, I think this is to the point of listen to your body. This is my body's white flag saying, please stop. So similarly, Lindsey turned to walking in my third trimester, and really found a lot of joy in that type of movement. So I took it pretty slow coming back to running, knowing that it had been 3 or 4 months since I had run. And so did a lot of the run walking, just going out for 10 to 20 minutes, building back up. And similarly, I guess, had a little bit of GI issues that had emerged that I'd never really had before. So getting used to getting my body back from a lungs and strength perspective, but then also, all of the postpartum breastfeeding things playing into the GI stuff as well. Just, I think, challenged my mentality a little bit to say, okay, how can I actually, still be excited to go run, take whatever the day gives me, and then also make sure that we're able to build little bit by little bit. So it's been a process, but definitely starting to come out on the other side here 10 months in.
Did any of you deal with, I know sometimes I feel like this is a juvenile question and a juvenile thing, but I think the internet really screws us up in our heads sometimes. Did any of you guys struggle with comparison things, like seeing another mom who was back out at 6 weeks postpartum, running a 21-minute 5K?
Sometimes. I would say one thing that was helpful, I think, for me is that through the Indy running community, I had seen a lot of other women go through pregnancy and coming back to running. And so I think that had at least helped me check myself to say, there are a million different ways to do this, just as there are a million different ways to parent and different pregnancy experiences, et cetera. So I think that was helpful, but I would be lying if I said I was perfect in maintaining that mentality all the time.
I took Strava off my phone until I was returning to running, because I just didn't want to know what everyone else is doing without me.
Yeah.
A little FOMO. So.
Yeah. And I think there's ways to stay connected, and we are really lucky in Indianapolis. I mean, again, Kate and I work out quite a bit, and there were times where I didn't show up for the workout, but I would meet her afterwards for coffee while I was on maternity leave. And that was a way to stay connected and be okay that, I'm just not there yet and I'm not ready. I think, Ashley and Kate both mentioned a lot of things, and my journey back from postpartum was fortunately very smooth. But I think the thing I really kept in mind, and I would tell everyone to keep in mind, is there's things that are going to be visible and obvious, like if you have pain or, some of the things that were described, or even emotional, but there's a lot of stuff you can't see either. And so I very deliberately set certain restrictions on myself, I will not run more than this many miles by this week. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're feeling good. I don't care if it feels like you can. Or even as I came back, I said, you're going to run for 10 minutes and then walk for 2. Whether you feel like you need it or not, those were just sort of restrictions and, I don't know, kind of milestones I set for myself so that I didn't get too ambitious or try to push it, because there's a lot you can't see. And, if you haven't been able to do the PT or been to your, post-op appointment, I don't know. I just thought it was worth it to take it easy. And I was anxious to at least get out and do something. And so that was a way to kind of put some boundaries on what I was willing to do and make sure that I kind of kept it somewhat in check, I guess, as I came back.
I love your run less, run faster mentality, because big miles are so
I had that before I was pregnant, though.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, and this is something I've shared, and there's obviously a book, Run Less, Run Faster. There's a lot of ways to be fast, and there's a lot, and so there's people that run really high mileage plans. There's people that run 6 and 7 days a week. And those are great, and they work for a lot of people. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't fit for everyone. And especially, and one of the things that I've always struggled with kind of high mileage plans is that if you convince yourself that that's the only way to be fast, and then you don't have the time to fit in 6 runs a week, or you don't have the time to fit in the mileage you want, it becomes a mental, you think you can't, well, then I just can't go for that big goal, or I can't go chase those big things. And I first used Run Less, Run Faster. Honestly, I was kind of staving off an injury and trying to get myself to a start line. And I just said, I can't run that many days in a row. If I run back-to-back days, I feel that pain. So to try to get myself to the start line and maintain the cycle, I went down to 3 days a week, and it was a lot of quality runs and quality miles. But it got me to the start line, and it got me, through the race and healthy. And I think as you come back, there's just so many unpredictable things. And we talk sometimes about, you might plan to run at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then if that feeding doesn't go well and something takes longer, or you have an unplanned, I don't know, diaper or set up, all of a sudden you might be dressed to run and you just can't make it because your window closed. And I mean, there were times I planned to run at, 9 or 10 a.m. and I ran at 4 p.m. that afternoon. And then there were times where I planned to run at 9 or 10 a.m. and I didn't run that day. It just didn't happen. And so to me, kind of making peace with the Run Less, Run Faster, and that you can still run fast and you can still go do big things, was really important. So that those runs that didn't happen, or the workout that didn't go you wanted, you didn't feel like that just ruined, your whole cycle, or you had to give up those things.
I also think it helps you enjoy running more.
Mm-hmm.
I did Run Less, Run Faster one time. I think it was for my second marathon. I didn't perform well because I took it to an extreme. I did like hardly any of the cross training. It's like, gotta do cardio more than 3 days a week though. But that, and then when I trained for a half Ironman, those are the 2 times when I think I enjoyed running the most, because I was doing other things. And then on that day, the days that I was running, I was like, yay, I get to run. And when you're talking about, you think you're planning to run at 9 and you end up running at 4. One of the things I, realized very quickly with my first is that when I'm going on a stroller run with him, like that run is not entirely about me. And it's great to have runs that are like, those are life-saving for your mental health when you have kids. But even in our gym, in our back garage now, if it's a weekend and we're lifting back there, or if it's a weekend and we're stroller running and our big boys are on bikes, like I have to actively tell myself and remind my husband, like, this isn't just about you. This is about your kids seeing you do what you love. And hopefully that is helping them in the long run want to have hobbies like that. Maybe not running, but like, oh, I've seen my parents like get so much out of the sport that they love. What can I do in my own life as I get older? You guys see, I've done this a lot with kids popping in the room.
I think Lindsey, that's really important. And, we all have different support structures, but I joke. So my husband's not a runner. He's very gracious with my running habits, but he doesn't understand it. Right. He's a non-runner. And I have a great Bob stroller, and I think running with Liam is really fun. But like you said, it's not every run, right? That's a different type of run. And we used to joke, there'd be times where I'd be like, hey, can you watch Liam at this time? I want to get out and run. And he's like, well, I thought that was why we got the stroller, so you could take him. And I said, no, I mean, the stroller's great, right? That gives me flexibility. It gives me options, but I don't want every single run to be a stroller run, then I don't have that for myself. And I just think communicating, with your partners, with your support system, with whatever it is. And like you said, I think stroller running's a blast, and that can be really special and something that you enjoy. And then also getting away and having an hour of just clear headspace is really valuable too. And I think asking for help and support from those around you to be able to do that is really important.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Kate? Who was talking about the village, or was that Ashley?
I don't know if I said that specifically, but definitely can speak to the village because I'm a big believer in it. I mean, I think having your village, whether that is your training group, that's your partner or your family, is just so helpful. And I think to the point of being able to voice very clearly what it is that you want and need, I think that's been one of my own biggest growth times as becoming a parent, is really being able to put words to that and have those candid conversations with the people who make up your village so that they know how to support you. Because oftentimes, people who love you and care about you want to be able to help. And so whether it's talking through to find the words, but also as you find them, being able to communicate those are really helpful. So
I always say too, like, your village doesn't just come to you. I mean, I look at these families sometimes and I'm like, how do you have all these people always helping? And like, you have to ask. Like, I have friends who are unwilling to ask their own mothers for help sometimes. And I know that every family dynamic is different. But I will always ask my mom. And if she tells me no, that she can't come help me, she'll tell me no, and that's fine. But I'm not too prideful to ask her for help. And the other thing is I so clearly remember after I had my fourth, I had a couple neighbors, and I just needed someone to walk my oldest across the street for me after school, so I didn't have to get people up from naps to pick them up. I could wake people up, but like, I didn't have to. There were enough people, but nobody was offering. Nobody was like, hey, Lindsey, do you want me to do this? I had to be uncomfortable for that quick second and be like, could you walk him across the street? And would anybody get annoyed if someone asked you that and you were already walking across the street? But my point is, you have to ask. Some of those people fall into your lap, but not all of them do, right?
And I think on that too, in terms of making the ask for things that you need as it relates to running too. So if, if you're in that tight time window of, the baby is down for a nap or they just ate and you have that limited amount of time, being able to make the ask of, if you're meeting up with training partners or whomever, could you come to me? Could we start at this time? Could we have a flexible start time within this window? Because we all know that it can be very fluid, or letting people know that you might be 5 to 10 minutes late because things may happen. I think that is another example of how you can help communicate to other people so that they know what to expect and make that ask. Because most people are willing to accommodate the majority of the time if they can, once you make that ask, as you said, Lindsey.
Well, yeah, and runners like, oh, I'll just run an extra 5 minutes while I'm waiting for you, right?
The running group that I've kind of formed here in Lexington, one of them is a new mom too, and she's a 7-month-old. And we kind of don't even make plans until like the morning because we don't know how their night went. Mm-hmm. We don't know when the first nap's going to fall or how the first feed's going to go or all of that. So it's been really kind of refreshing to have like someone in the same exact boat. And if we can't make it work, we don't make it work. But then there's also 2 other women that we run with, and they're pretty fluid and understanding, and we'll even offer to help push the stroller or whatever to help accommodate us if we're like struggling up a hill, or even me when I'm running with Lynn, we just help each other when needed and stuff like that. But it's been nice to like someone in the same situation in life to kind of understand and make running easier.
Oh my gosh, having a friend to push the stroller for you, that is amazing. Have we all had that?
Until I did my first stroller run, I underestimated how much work that is. You just think like it's on wheels, you just run. And yeah, I did my first one. I thought, oh my gosh, all those times I watched these crazy strong women. And I just remember Jen Rosano at Monumental Mile pushing a triple stroller to like a 6-minute mile or something. And I don't know, there's just been some insane performances with strollers that I think go underappreciated until you've done it.
The double is so hard too. I mean, I'm serious. We had a triple too, and I think the triple and the double are comparable, but the double compared to the single, it's a big difference.
We got a double and do not use it. Nope.
Yeah, it's not fun. No. The single, the double to the single, and you're like, whoa, this thing, Yeah. But it's an awkward thing to like start learning how to like, what do I do with this arm? I usually push with one arm and pump with the other, right? Is that what you guys do?
Mm-hmm. That's what I do.
Unless it's a big hill and then I'm like head down.
Yeah. Don't judge my form.
Yeah.
Well, and I
well,
used to get really upset because you get shortchanged on your step counter. If that's the hand you're pushing with, you don't get counted for all the steps. And I get really upset about that because really you should get double credit for those steps.
I did not know that. Well, let's kind of wrap up here with, what do you hope your kids take from seeing mom? Oh, no, yeah, Trina's question. Never mind. We kind of covered Trina's question. What do you guys hope that your kids take from mom being, a runner?
For me, I can already see it in my daughter who snuck in here a little bit ago. She's really into running now, just because she sees like kind of that's what mommy and daddy prioritize kind of on the weekends to get done. It's like a main discussion of who gets to run first and when and all of that. So even I'll go, since we live in Kentucky now, it's like way too hilly to like do stroller runs all the time, but I'll tell her like, I'll do the first mile with you in the stroller. So she's involved and we can talk, and sometimes she'll come out at the end and we'll finish the run together, which is like 3 houses of running together, and she gets really excited about it. And she's recently started soccer, and her favorite part about soccer is the running. So it makes me really happy that she likes it.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Anybody else can go.
I would say I hope that Jasper sees that movement is important, and just like the excitement of learning to move your body, the importance of taking care of your body and moving it throughout your life, whether that's running or some other form of exercise. And then I think the ability to set a goal and to work towards that, and to see, what the payoff can be when you're making those investments day after day, mile after mile over time, to have that determination and perseverance to achieve what you want.
Yeah, I hear some people, and let's all face it, right? Runners, we're a little bit different. And I sometimes hear people say like, I hate running, but I do it because I'm doing it to lose weight, or I do it for this reason. And to be honest, I've never understood that. Like, if I hated running, I wouldn't do it. I would find a different way to move, a different way to be active, or find that outlet. So, to me, like what running represents to me is having something that I enjoy, that helps me get away, that clears that space, that creates a healthy lifestyle. And, kind of like Ashley and Kate both said, it's not so much that, oh, I want Liam to be a runner, or I want him to be like me. It's that I want him to have passion, right? And have interest and commit to it and set goals, and just have something that he gets so excited to do and he wants to be a part of. And we joke in our family, because I shared before, my husband's not a runner, and so I'll always say, oh, well, when Liam's a runner, he'll do this, and we'll say, well, when Liam's a golfer, we're gonna watch him do this. And I don't care what he does. I just want him to have passion and interest, and chase ambitious goals, and hold himself accountable to it.
Yeah, I love that concept. I always tell my boys, like, we were created to move our bodies every day. And during the winter, when it's been like so cold and gross and COVID, you can't really go too many places. We have this mission, like, we are getting outside and we are running around every single day, no matter what. And that's always my tagline. Like, we were created to move our bodies. And I say the same about food. Like, food is our fuel. We need good fuel to move these bodies. Let's wrap up with what your message, each of you can answer, would be to maybe a mom who wants to have a baby someday, or is about to have a baby, or is newly postpartum. What's your message to them as a mother runner yourself?
I can start. I think my message is take care of yourself too. You're going to take care of your child. I think it's innate. It's it's that maternal instinct. But don't neglect yourself, because you'll be the best mom. You'll be the best support. You'll be the best that you can be if you do the right things for yourself too. And you mentioned like food and nutrition. It's just crazy what this does to your body. And so there were times I went for runs and I felt like my blood sugar dropped because I hadn't eaten healthy that day, or I hadn't had the right amount of SAC or nutrition. So that would be my message, is it's okay to still make choices for yourself and prioritize your time and your health and your nutrition and all those things. And it's going to make you a better mom, and enjoy the journey.
I love that. I always say to my kids, I'm like, I have to eat too. I'm a human. I have a body too.
Real talk.
I also have to function. And that means putting this toast in my mouth before I give you second breakfast.
One of my first stroller runs, we ended up at Whole Foods because I thought I was going to pass out. I was like, we're not going to make it back if I don't eat something in between. So, and so take those, you could get upset about that, or you can laugh at it and take it in stride.
I think I'd say that one thing that has helped me is that everything is a phase. So from your own perspective in running and how you are approaching your goals, it's like each part of pregnancy and what you can do at that point in listening to your body may be different, but that will end as you bring the baby into the world. And then, you have your postpartum recovery and getting back into what you want. And then in the phases after, sometimes you'll be able to train for a PR, other times you're training to move your body. And so I think in keeping that it's all a phase, the baby not sleeping is a phase, they will come around, has been a helpful some of those phases.
Wrong.
You got this, Ashley.
Others.
Wrong.
No commitment made here on how long those phases are. But helping to just know that each of those phases will come to an end. And so kind of approaching that from a training cycle perspective has been, I guess, applying that same mentality to this has been helpful for me in approaching that.
I love that. You can tell yourself that in the middle of the night, like, it's a phase, like we're not going to be doing this forever. Maybe it will be 6 months, but it won't be 5 years. I will say that my 8-year-old does sleep on our floor sometimes. So he doesn't wake us up though. He just sleeps on our floor. So sleep issues haven't stalled too much yet.
For me, I would say, I actually do have a couple friends who are like still on the fence about whether or not they want to have kids because they're afraid it's going to ruin their hobbies, their lifestyles. So much will change. And yes, it will change. And yes, it's always an adjustment as any life changes. But like, I like how Kate said that everything is a phase, that your postpartum recovery time is really important. If you pulled a calf or a hamstring or something, like if you don't rest, it's not going to get better. So you need to allow yourself, this is an excuse. It's not like you're just being lazy and you don't get to run. And I know it's hard to see other people running, but like giving yourself the proper amount of time to recover from doing something amazing called growing a human and birthing them. It's like a deserved break. Yeah, it's just, and if something is that important to you, like running, you'll figure out a way to prioritize it. And like we mentioned, asking for help. If you have the ability to even like get a sitter so you can go and run, or even if your significant other likes running too, you can make that a date night or something like that, or incorporate it into it. It's not all bad. It's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to get creative.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I'm so grateful for you ladies doing this. This has been really fun to get to know you all. I know Chris and I know each other and have run together a few times, but it's been nice to meet you, Ashley and Kate, as well.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you all. Lindsey, thanks for hosting, and Ashley and Kate and Chris, thank you so much. I'm a dad, and you moms are incredible. As much as us dads think we have it rough, you guys all know this. We lie. We don't have it rough as dads do. I mean, there's no way. I can't believe I used to think I did. Now my daughters are 25 and 27. I didn't have it rough. Well, thank you very much for your time and helping out the Indy runners. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody, with training.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.